Thank you. Good afternoon. The Senate Committee on Natural Resources will now come to order. Members and presenters, please remember to mute your microphone when you are not speaking. And at this time, will our secretary please go ahead and call the roll?
Senator Brooks.
Here.
Senator Goycochea.
Here.
Senator Hansen.
Here.
Senator Scheibel.
Here.
Chair Donate.
And I am here for the record. Thank you. Welcome everyone to the Senate Committee on Natural Resources. Before we begin, I would like to point out that the committee will be starting with the work session today and then going on to hearing SB 78 and SB 114 or 114. Now, for anyone who has not participated in any of these virtual legislative meetings yet, I will go ahead and quickly explain how the virtual committee meetings are working and being conducted for the 2021 legislative session. As you know, the legislative building is currently closed to the public, so all committee meetings will be held virtually, meaning that committee members, staff, and everyone else will participate either through Zoom, video conference, or by telephone. However, there are various ways that members of the public can engage with us and participate throughout the process. As in previous sessions, all committee-related information is available on the Nevada Electronic Legislative Information System, commonly referred to as NELIS, which can be accessible from the legislature's website. There are 4 main ways that you can engage with our committee, and this includes registering to participate in a committee meeting through the NELIS system, which places you online to testify on a bill or provide public comment during the meeting, submitting written testimony to the committee's email address or fax number listed on the agenda, sharing your opinion via the legislature's opinion application on NELIS, which I'll detail later today, or viewing the committee meetings online through NELIS or on the legislature's YouTube channel. To testify on a bill or provide public comment during the 2021 legislative session, members of the public must first register for the meeting that you'd like to participate in, and the committee meetings are listed on several places throughout NELIS. To participate or to register, simply click on the participate button near the meeting date and time, and then fill out the required information that you need. And then once your registration is submitted, you will have the confirmation screen. But just as a note that while meeting registration is required, it does not guarantee you a spot to speak, and similar to previous sessions, testimony and public comment may be limited due to time constraints, which might end up happening today. So just want to make sure everyone's aware of that. When you are on the phone line, please pay attention to which bill is being considered when bills are listed on the meeting's agenda, and follow the verbal prompts that have been provided by BPS so that you know which keys to press at the right time and how to unmute yourself. BPS staff will call you by the last 3 digits of your phone number, and if you need any help, detailed instructions on participating in the committee meetings are available on the help page, which is listed on the top page on NELIS. And if you ever need any assistance with any of these processes, or if you'd like to receive electronic notification of the committee's agendas, please contact our committee manager at the committee email listed on the agenda. So let's go ahead and proceed with our work session. Today, we will be holding a work session on one bill. I would like to remind everyone that we will not be taking testimony at the work session. However, I may call on someone as necessary to answer questions from the committee members. Just as fair notice, today we scheduled to work session 2 bills, SB 34 and SB 98. We had a few questions regarding SB 34 that came up within the last few hours, so we'll be taking that off the agenda for now until we get further clarification, just for everyone's transparency's sake. But with that, let's go ahead and proceed forward. We will go ahead and begin with SB 98. Our policy analyst, Jennifer Rudy, will be walking us through the work session. Ms. Rudy, please proceed when you are ready.
Thank you, Chair Donate. This is Jennifer Rudy, Committee Policy Analyst. As LCB staff, I am neither in support or in opposition to any legislation before the committee. Senate Bill 98 expands the membership of the Board of Directors of the Carson Water Subconservancy District from 11 to 13 members by adding 2 members who are Story County residents appointed by the Board of County Commissioners of Story County. The measure expands the Carson Water Subconservancy District to include the portions of Story County within the Carson River hydrologic basin. The measure excludes the portion of Story County within the district from the taxable property on which the Board of Directors are authorized to levy a certain tax. Instead, the Board of County Commissioners of Story County must pay to the district from the county's general fund an amount equal to what would have been generated by such a tax on the portion of Story County that is within the Carson River hydrologic basin. And there are no amendments proposed for Senate Bill 98. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rudy. At this time, do any of the committee members have any outstanding questions regarding this bill? Okay, I don't see anyone have any questions. So at this time, I will go ahead and entertain a motion to do pass SB 98.
So moved. Senator Scheibel?
Thank you, Vice Chair Scheibel. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion, Senator Goycochea.
Thank you. Seconded by Senator Goycochea. Is there any discussion or any questions regarding the motion? Seeing none, will the secretary go ahead and please call the roll call vote?
Senator Brooks,
Yes.
Senator Goycochea,
Yes.
Senator Hansen,
Yes.
Senator Scheibel,
Yes.
Chair Donati.
And I am a yes. So the motion carries. And if Senator Settlemyer will please go ahead and handle the floor statement for his bill, that would be much appreciated. And thank you to my committee members for carrying this out. So that concludes our work session. Let's go ahead and proceed with the bills that we have today. So going in order, let's proceed with Senate Bill 78. So I'm going to go ahead and open the hearing on SB 78. This measure revises the membership of the Board of Wildlife. Will the bill presenter, Senator Goycochea, please proceed when you are ready?
Thank you, Chair Donati. Senator Goycochea, representing Senate District 19. SB 78 started out as a fairly simple bill. And that's easy to say, and it's bad luck, I know. It was guides and outfitters clearly looking for some representation on the Wildlife Commission as pertaining to the decisions that were made that were really impacting their industry. And the other piece of it, clearly NDOW and the Wildlife Commission was making a number of decisions that impact local government on a broad aspect, especially as it pertains to, mitigation of some, even if it was a mine plan or whatever. A lot of those projects were being held up and truly impacting a lot of the rural governments. So anyway, as I worked on the bill, it became apparent there were a lot of other issues, and that's what really triggered the amendment. And I hope we can work, everyone's got a copy of the amendments to SB 78, and we need to work on that, off of that in the interest of time, because the bill has changed significantly from really just expanding the Board of Wildlife Commissioners to the rationale as to why we really need to get there. In the old days, and a couple decades ago, the county advisory boards were truly engaged with NDOW in the administration and the selection of the Wildlife Commission. I remember back when those county boards actually stood toe-to-toe with NDOW and set bag limits and seasons, and they were very engaged. Unfortunately, over the years, the process has been become somewhat political, and people that are being appointed to the Wildlife Commission tend to know people in the right places, and that's why they're getting the appointment. So with that comes the real change in Section 2, Sub 2, and that is that now, and it is required in statute that the county advisory boards do in fact nominate, but there's nothing in statute that says just because you weren't nominated by a county advisory board, it doesn't mean you can't be appointed. With this change in statute, it says that in order to be, you would have to be appointed, not appointed, but nominated by a local CAB and endorsed, or in fact not endorsed, and that list would go to the governor, and then the governor would have to select his appointee to the Wildlife Commission from that list that was created by the CABs. The other piece of it that I think is truly far-reaching in this, presently, there are 3 members if you're in a county of over 700,000, 2 members if you're in a county over 100,000, and then all the other counties only had 1 member. So it made it really difficult in places like Elko County, where truly you had the ranching or the farming representative coming from that jurisdiction, then no one else could sit on the Wildlife Commission from that particular county. And as you look at the makeup of the board, clearly 3 are from Clark, 2 from Washoe, and the other 4 are from the other 15 counties. So we're looking at not only expanding the board, but also allowing those rural counties to have at least 2 representatives on the Wildlife Commission. And those are really the biggest changes in this, other than, like you say, the actual expansion of the board. And, you know, as we look at the budget and the wildlife and the duties of the Wildlife Commission, I think it's fair to say there's a lot of money that goes through NDOW's budget. And most of us believe that oversight is provided by the Wildlife Commission. And I know those budgets, in fact, come before the legislature, but because of the small amount of general fund that is in NDOW's budget, we really don't give it that kind of scrutiny either. And so with that, I think it is truly fair to say that we need to expand the commission, allow those interested parties that are impacted by the duties of NDOW to really have the oversight over how the monies and the business of NDOW is handled through the Wildlife Commission. So I won't belabor this anymore. I think we're going to have a lot of testimony on this particular bill, but I will turn it over to the guides and outfitters to plead their case, as well as I believe Mr. Tippett is here to plead the case, local government. But with that, I will stand for any questions.
Okay, at this time, let's go ahead and if anyone has any immediate questions for Senator Goycochea, they can ask them, and then I can entertain the other presenters that you have as well. Does anyone have any immediate questions for Senator Goycochea? Vice Chair Scheibel, go for it.
Thank you. So I'm a little bit curious about the thinking behind adding a member of the board who is a master guide, as opposed to just suggesting that one of the 5 members in subsection G be a master guide.
Well, again, now you're saying in G just that it would, let's see, now technically under the amended bill, it would be D is the master guide, and then F is a general, no, I'm sorry, yes, D is the master guide. And you're saying just leave that wide open?
No, I'm saying why don't we just, instead of adding a guide in addition to the 5 members who are, for ease of conversation, hunters, why don't we just say 5 hunters, including 1 who is a master guide?
Technically, well, we could put that language in there if that was an amendment that the vice chair would like to see. You know, I think presently there is probably a sub-guide on the commission, but it's not truly a master guide. And yeah, there's nothing that says that a master guide couldn't qualify for one of those 5 slots, because they clearly hold a hunting license in 3 out of the last 4 years. But
Right.
the reason was the guides and outfitters, and I'll let them plead their case as well, have struggled for representation for a number of years just for their industry. And it's, you know, because typically the guides and outfitters are more of an industry than, say, just your average weekend hunter.
Okay, so that brings up 2 questions for me. The first one is, I guess I'm just not understanding why we're going to do the 5 hunters plus the master guide, as opposed to just 5 hunters including a master guide. But the second question that I have now is, if there really are more of an industry, and the wildlife board is supposed to be, my understanding is that it's supposed to be the body that utilizes science to regulate animal populations, wouldn't it be kind of a conflict of interest to put somebody who has a financial stake in those decisions in a decision-making position?
Well, presently the through the chair to Senator Scheibel. Presently, actually, the majority of the board is hunters. In fact, they're there to harvest the wildlife.
But do they gain financially from the decisions that the board makes?
Well, I wouldn't think that neither does ranching, again, through the chair to Senator Scheibel, but again, ranching, farming, or expertise in conservation. I think it's, and again, if you feel that there is actually, financial gain there, I think we seem to lose the concept of just because they are a guide and outfitter. The bottom line is a lot of that, some of those are fishing trips, photography, and those people are in fact out there in those rural areas, probably have a closer connection to, i.e. the habitat and the species out there than the average person. So I think they would be well suited to actually sit on this commission and say, hey, I'm in the livestock industry, but I can tell you our deer herds are declining rapidly. I don't benefit from that, but I do have, because I'm there and I can, know the situation and unfortunately been there for a long time. I recognize the fact that the trends as they come, whether it is habitat and or the wildlife. If we're talking about representation, clearly the guides and outfitters can bring in expertise you wouldn't find in the other 5 people because that is their livelihood. Now, whether it's beneficial to them or not, I'll leave that up to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Goycochea and Vice Chair Scheibel for those questions. Do I have Senator Hansen? Looks like he has a question. Go for it.
Thanks, Chair. Well, I want to make one thing clear. That is a lot of the guides and outfitters actually, while it's true they do hunting and things like that, one of the growing things in Nevada actually are taking pictures of everything from wild horses to fancy fishing trips and going to see animals in the summer when you are not hunting them. So I think we got to understand that even though they're hunters and guides, that the guiding isn't exclusively to hunting. The second point I wanted to address, the idea of financial gain. Look, the truth is the Department of Wildlife is funded almost exclusively from revenue generated by the sale of hunting licenses, tags, fishing licenses, and of course, a huge chunk comes from the Pittman-Robertson funds, which primarily come from people who are also interested in outdoor pursuits. So, if we look at the financial side of it, we got to be a little bit careful because this entire agency is actually funded one way or another through primarily those outdoor activities. So as far as the guides, I just real quick, Chair, if you can just indulge me for 1 second, because I do have an extensive background in this stuff. And with the cabs in particular, I want to emphasize one point. When in 1947, they set up what was called the State Wildlife Commission, okay? It was actually called the Fish and Game Commission. And at that time, it was a 17-member board, and all 17 members were elected, 1 per county in the state of Nevada. And that was the origin of all this. And so at one time, the counties had a tremendous amount of input on this stuff. And I've watched the erosion of that through the years. So we're now the Citizens Advisory Board from all 17 counties have very limited, almost no input. So I've seen a dramatic change from very, very heavy levels of civilian involvement into where today it's almost totally dominated by professional biologists at NDOW, which isn't totally bad, don't get me wrong. But I just want to throw that in there, kind of just a little historical perspective. And there's a lot more to it, but I don't want to tie up the whole chair the whole time. Anyway, I didn't really have a question so much, so I just kind of want to get on the record that, because I hear that quite a bit, well, the guides have a financial interest or somebody has some financial ties to wildlife, but the reality is that's true for, frankly, the entire Department of Wildlife. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Senator Hansen, for that comment. The one question that I had that came up to me from some of the letters that were sent both in opposition and in support, Senator Goycochea, can you respond to the concern of there has been an interest in instituting term limits for members who serve on this board? Has that ever been a conversation that you have heard or anything that you would respond to that?
No, it's not, I wasn't brought up to me. I might have plugged it in the bill, Chair Donati. I think it probably is reasonable. Some of the people have, again, been on the commission for a long time. But I really did feel that if we were able to accomplish through the amendment, and that is allowing that the CABs, the local county advisory boards, can go back to their original jurisdiction and have the ability, which was intended, I believe, in statute, that they would nominate. The existing statute says they will nominate. Unfortunately, it moved away from the governor didn't have to appoint from that list. And I know in many cases, CABs had nominated some very strong people that they wanted to see put on the Wildlife Commission. And ultimately, they said, well, we just didn't have enough political connections to get on. And so I think if we're really going back to managing the species and the habitat and wildlife, let's go back to these local county boards that clearly have the ability, the sportsmen, the expertise, they're all walks of life, and walk in there and let them be the one that actually selects the Wildlife Commission that I think is going to have a bigger role in the oversight of NDOW. And as Senator Hansen pointed out, there's a lot of sportsman money goes through there, but a lot of this is on a 3-to-1 match from Pittman Act money. And when you get that kind of dollars going through, it needs some more oversight than what we're giving it. And I believe that the users out there, the people that are in control of the habitat and the species need to be engaged. So thank you, Chair Donati.
Thank you, Senator Goicoechea, for clarifying that. Are there any other questions before I let Senator Goicoechea entertain the other presenters? Okay, Senator Goicoechea, do you have, I believe you have a few other presenters. It was Rachel Bazzetti and Henry Krenka from the Nevada Outfitter Guide Association, and then we have Jake Tibbetts who is a natural resources manager from Eureka County. So if I can go ahead and yield the floor, who would you like to go ahead and present first, sir?
At your preference, sir. I believe Mr. Tibbetts is actually also presenting for NACO's Legislative Commission as well. I think he's more to the side of the local governing body, political appointee.
Thank you, Senator Goicoechea. Okay, Mr. Tibbetts, if you want to go ahead and proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me okay?
You're good.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thankful for this opportunity today. I'm Jake Tibbetts. That's JAKETIBBITTS. And I'm the Natural Resources Manager for Eureka County. Excuse me. And Eureka County has worked with Senator Goicoechea on the amendment to SB 78 to increase the role of county advisory boards to manage wildlife. You've heard them called CABs. And this role in seating of commissioners on the Wildlife Commission. So our desire is to ensure that the commission remains responsive to CABs and the local communities they represent by being supported and accountable to those mostly affected in each and every county. So real quickly, looking at the amended Section 2 would require the governor to request of the CABs nominations or endorsement of nominations of individuals from the respective county to various vacancies on the Wildlife Commission. Amended Section 3 would give the CABs 30 days to respond to the governor's request. And if a CAB does not respond within this 30 days, the governor can make the appointment of any nominee from within that county that was provided to the CAB for endorsement. However, if a CAB does respond within the 30 days, the governor may only appoint from those individuals within that respective county that were nominated or endorsed by the CAB. So, Mr. Chair, if you'd indulge me, I'd like to speak a little regarding the intent of this amendment. So each CAB is appointed by the respective county commissioners, and according to NRS 501-265, it must include, quote, one qualified person who represents the interests of the general public of the county. End quote. So each CAB is also accountable to their local constituencies due to being appointed by the locally elected county commission. So with all due respect to the current and past Wildlife Commission members, The governor appointments to the commissioners have at times been mired in political influence. Giving the CABs a role in the governor appointments to the commissioners will ensure a grassroots voice and also ensure participation of the general public voice in multiple ways. This would include through the general public seat on each CAB and also through the general public leverage at the ballot box of each and every county commissioner in Nevada that appoints these CABs. Further, NDOW exists under the executive branch directly under the governor. As currently structured, the Wildlife Commission is also appointed by the governor as oversight of NDOW. We argue that this is not a clear separation of power nor necessarily a proper check and balance. Giving CABs a role in the appointment of members of the Wildlife Commission provides an independent check and balance on this particular government branch and associated government oversight. So as Senator Hansen mentioned, if you were to look back at the history of the Wildlife Commission, you'd see that the original commission, as he stated, was called the Fish and Game Commissioners, was made up of 17 members, one from each county, and they were seated through local elections. Over time, the makeup of the Wildlife Commission has morphed into what it is today, and we believe that does not always work in coordination with the CABs as intended originally or even today. NRS 501-297 and 501-303 outlines the duties of the CABs to, quote, solicit and evaluate local opinion and advise the Commission on matters relating to the management of wildlife, and that the CABs shall submit recommendations for the management of wildlife and setting seasons for fishing, hunting, and trapping, which must be considered by the Commission in its deliberation on and establishment of regulations. In NRS 501-105 and 501-181, it requires the Commission to, quote, first consider the recommendation of the department, the county advisory boards, and other persons who present their views at an open meeting of the Commission. So NRS 181 further requires that, quote, in establishing any regulations related to seasons, harvest numbers, and related matters, that when, quote, the Commission rejects the recommendations of a county advisory board applicable within the respective county, the Commission shall provide to the county advisory board to manage wildlife at the meeting an explanation of the Commission's decision to reject the recommendations, and, as soon as practicable after the meeting, a written explanation of the Commission's decision to reject the recommendations. So we assert that this close coordination and communication with the CABs is not happening within the statute's past and current intent. For instance, the CABs I work with sometimes feel that they don't have much voice with the Commission as intended. We believe this amendment to SB 78 will open up a pathway for better coordination between the Commission and the CABs due to the CABs having a better defined voice and seating of the Commission members. Finally, the legislature has mandated planning and land use regulation at the local level through various statutes, including NRS 278, and has specifically included mandates and empowerment for natural resources planning and use, which includes wildlife. NRS 278.020 empowers counties with regulation of improvement of land, taking into account, quote, potential impairment of natural resources and the total population which the available natural resources will support without unreasonable impairment. NRS 278 has many other locations speaking towards and even mandating inclusion of conservation elements and policies related to natural resources local land use plans. Further, the Local Government Cooperation Act in NRS 277.182 through 277.188 states that, quote, the purpose of the State and Local Government Cooperation Act is to encourage communication, cooperation, and coordinated working relationships between state agencies and local governments, end quote. It continues, quote, if a state agency intends to adopt a plan or amendment thereto, the state agency should, to the extent practicable, 1, inform local governments that may be affected by the state agency's intent to adopt a plan or amendment thereto, 2, solicit and consider comments from local governments that may be affected by the plan or amendment thereto, and 3, if the local government informs the state agency that the proposed plan or amendment thereto will be inconsistent or incompatible with the plan of the local government, consider whether the state agency can make the plan or amendment compatible with the plan of the local government. We don't see this effort under NRS 277 currently taking place with NDOW nor the Wildlife Commission. So CABs provide a vital link between the Wildlife Commission and the county commissions and the local stakeholders to ensure that local plans and policies related to natural resources and wildlife are voiced, they're taken into account as anticipated. This amendment in SB 78 would assist in helping the Wildlife Commission be more responsive to local needs. So, Mr. Chairman, with that, I'm able to answer any questions any committee members may have.
Thank you, Mr. Tibbetts. Let's go ahead and move on with the other two presenters, and then I can go ahead and entertain any questions before we want to move on to testimony. I believe we had Ms. Rachel Bozzetti, if you are on the line. And go ahead.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you, Senator Goicoechea, for bringing this bill forward. I'm Rachel Bozzetti, the Secretary of the Nevada Outfitters and Guides Association. Last name Bozzetti, B-U-Z-Z-E-T-T-I. My husband and I own and operate an outfitting business as well in northeastern Nevada. I would like to start by saying that SB 78 is a really good bill. It's important to Nevada guides and sportsmen alike. It proposes to expand the oversight and transparency that are much needed within this commission and for the Department of Wildlife. As you've just heard from Senator Goicoechea, SB 78 proposes to expand the Wildlife Commission by 2 members, one being the licensed master guide. Throughout the years, the commission has made policies and regulations which have adversely affected the guide industry financially. In 2004, the Wildlife Commission proposed to remove the second draw opportunity for non-resident hunters, and it was removed. And that heavily impacted the guide's annual income. Then in 2018, the Wildlife Commission changed their draw system, which was supposed to be more user-friendly. And they told outfitters that they would no longer be able to receive the saleable list with all the successful applicants. This marketing list allowed guides to mail brochures out to the successful sportsmen. This decision that the commission made cost Nevada outfitters no less than $500,000 in lost revenue. Additionally, during the 2019 legislature, the association proposed that the Wildlife Commission create an advisory board to deal specifically with guide industry issues, and the Wildlife Commission opposed the board and persuaded legislators to not adopt the bill creating the board. So as you can see, the commission does in fact make policies that affect our business. Therefore, it only seems plausible to add a licensed guide to the commission to assist in making these decisions. Master guides have a good understanding of the wildlife and what is happening, especially during the hunting season. Guides are in the field all fall and many of the hunting seasons, and not just for a week or two. They hunt multiple species such as antelope, elk, goats, sheep, and deer. They are a very knowledgeable resource when it comes to wildlife. They work from sun up to sundown, scouting, preparing camps, saddling horses, getting equipment ready, and hunting, so that the sportsman can have a safe and exciting outdoor experience with the guide. Guides not only take the public hunting, they also provide trail rides, photography expeditions, fishing trips, and overnight camp trips. However, hunting trips are their main source of income. If the guide industry cannot remain fiscally viable, then all of this is compromised when it comes to taking the public into the outdoors. The equipment might be less than comparable, and our industry will see less licensed and insured guides and more activity, illegal activity possibly. And this will continue if the commission was to keep making adverse decisions for our industry. Expanding the commission by 2 members will ensure that there is diversity, transparency, and sufficient oversight with the State Wildlife Commission. Their job is to manage the wildlife when spending state and federal dollars, and since they receive the dollars from both state and federal, it begs the question, shouldn't there be more oversight and transparency for the commission and the Department of Wildlife? The 2 other key foundational components, one Mr. Tibbetts just spoke of in this bill, address how many members from a region can serve and how many commissioners are appointed. Both of these are proposed to ensure grassroots participation as well as a knowledge base that will serve as a real asset to the commission when making wildlife management decisions. In my mind, what a better person to sit on the commission than a guide who spends all fall in the field scouting, watching, and hunting multiple species. Finally, by supporting this bill, you are supporting more grassroots participation, less hand-picked, politically connected individuals, and you are supporting transparency and oversight, which is critical in order to maintain a financially sound commission and department. I hope you will consider supporting SB 78, and I thank you for your time, and of course, I'm always here for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Rachel Buzzetti. And then I think we have one last presenter who might be next to you, Mr. Henry Krenka, if you want to go ahead and proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Henry Krenka, Krenka. My name is Henry Krenka, and I'm the owner and operator of Hidden Lake Outfitters, LLC, for the past 40 years. And I am presently the president of the Nevada Outfitters and Guides Association. Thank you for hearing Senate Bill 78, which would expand the State Wildlife Commission by 2 members. In an effort to improve the State Wildlife Commission and their wildlife decision-making policies, I would ask you to pass SB 78. It proposes to expand and diversify the commission. The commission makes wildlife policies that affect outfitters and guides throughout the year, with many of them happening without the knowledge of the outfitters and guides. There needs to be more oversight and transparency of the State Wildlife Commission so that any proposals made by the Nevada Department of Wildlife are fully understood and any issues can be debated by all involved and affected. The State Wildlife Commission is designed to manage wildlife. Adding members through whose livelihood and primary interest is wildlife in Nevada would be beneficial to the commission. At this time, the commission consists of members who are primary interest are ranching, farming, conservation, general public, and sportsmen. At this time, there isn't a member whose primary interest is wildlife, and isn't that the name of the commission? I am hoping you will see the value of 2 more members to the State Wildlife Commission and be in favor of SB 78. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Henry Krenka, and to all of the presenters for today. Do we have any last-minute questions from any of the committee members before we proceed with the testimony? Okay, I don't think I see any, so thank you again for your presentation. Let's go ahead and proceed. So as a reminder, we will be limiting all testifiers to 2 minutes each, and I will be capping, if it does go beyond 30 minutes for each side, I will be capping it. So just for fair public notice and transparency, please keep in mind the 2 minutes each mark. I will cut you off just from the amount of people that we have, and it just to be respectful of everyone's time. Testifiers are encouraged to summarize their positions and to submit more comprehensive testimony in writing if you're not able to get it within that time frame. And EPS, is there anyone on the line wishing to provide support testimony for SB 78 at this time?
Thank you so much, Chair. To testify in support on Senate Bill 78, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 280. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Thank you, Chair Donate and members of the committee. My name is Colby Prout, Colby Prout. I'm the Natural Resources Manager for the Nevada Association of Counties. NACO's members are all 17 of Nevada's counties. NACO would like to offer support for SB 78 and the proposed amendment. County advisory boards to manage wildlife, or CABs, hold local knowledge and expertise that can assist this and future governors in making appointments to the state's Board of Wildlife Commissioners. The recommendations or approvals of these 17 boards will help the state craft and best implement cogent, thoughtful, and consistent policies across the board that are more easily implemented by the Division of Wildlife. Furthermore, Section 2, Subsection 2 of the proposed amendment outlines a process that will ensure local knowledge and expertise makes its way onto the Board of Wildlife Commissioners. Specifically, this process will help leverage local knowledge and experience into the process and help bolster the state's wildlife management policies. For these reasons, we urge this committee's support of SB 78 and the proposed amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Thank you, Chair. Caller with the last three digits, 909. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mitch Pizzetti, B-U-Z-Z-E-T-T-I. I'm a licensed guide and outfitter for 24 years in Nevada. Over these 24 years of being in business, I've seen the Department of Wildlife and the Commission attempt to degrade the guiding industry with regulation like eliminating the second draw and the saleable list opportunity. I would refer back to the Madam Senator's question at the beginning on the department and the object of the Wildlife Commission to use the science to manage wildlife. But Madam Senator, oftentimes they use politics and intervene in my livelihood, not about managing wildlife, but how my ability to feed my family and how I use the resource in the field. And some of their decisions are politically motivated, which hampers my ability to do business and to feed my family. So that's why I support this bill to put a licensed master guide on the commission. It's simple. The Wildlife Commission has set these regulations over the years for 20 years, and they're pretty tough, and now we're into tough economic times, for small business in the state. And just for one example, the commission has a regulation coming up at the next meeting to simplify regulation, but when it comes to the guiding industry, we're going to add regulation and hamper my ability to input clients into the guided draw. So their intentions aren't always science-based and are about managing wildlife. I'm also a member and representative of the Elko County Wildlife Advisory Board, and I have been for 10 years. And over this time period, I've seen the department and the commission disregard recommendations several times, time and time again, brought forward by our county. And, our county is the largest county with the largest mule deer herd in the state of Nevada and a large portion of the wildlife in Nevada. So I truly think having a commissioner on this board would really, really be helpful in that stance. In closing, I would also like to say there will be some organizations and individuals whose comments I have taken offense to on their prior acknowledgement of this bill that will speak against this bill. But one should really remember they are well invested in the current policy and the current system. And in my mind, it's a flawed system. So I do appreciate the committee's time, and I'd be open for any questions if you have it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Caller with the last three digits, 717. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hello, my name is Michael Gerard. That's spelled J-U-R-A-D. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, caller, please proceed.
Thank you. I own and operate Mountain Man Outfitters, LLC, in Winnemucca, Nevada. First, I'd like to thank everybody and thank Mr. Gogachi and Mr. Hansen for their support on this. And I've had the privilege to sit on the Humboldt County Advisory Board to Manage Wildlife for the last 20 years. And historically, the state commission used to listen to the county boards. Well, they don't anymore, and they haven't for quite a while now. And we used to get to nominate who gets to be on the State Wildlife Commission. Well, that went away for whatever reason. And then as of the recent past, Department of Wildlife and the State Wildlife Commission has made decisions that have severely impacted the outfitting and guided industry in a negative way in our state. A couple examples: they made a regulation to eliminate the chance for a second draw if you were unsuccessful in the guided draw. They eliminated the access to the sellable list for outfitters and master guides, which, with the way my business model works, that has severely handicapped me financially. They continually push for increased tag quotas despite feedback from the area biologists, outfitters, guides, cabs, sportsmen and women in this state. It's all in black and white. There's so many examples about the deer quotas, the elk quotas, the pronghorn quotas. It's ridiculous. I spend about 200 plus days a year in the field, and I have offered those guys to come out with me, and I can show them what I am seeing, or rather what I am not seeing, and nobody has took me up on that offer. With our decline in wildlife populations and their degrading habitat. And with that being said, I am the most conservative board member in Humboldt County. I always push for less tags because I'd rather have a quality hunt than a quantity hunt. And for the madam that I missed her name at the beginning, wanted to know about the conflict of interest. Anytime there's something to do with outfitters and guides comes to our board, I recuse myself from making a vote on that particular item. And it would be no different on the State Wildlife Commission to have an outfitter on there, a master guide, as it is to have a farmer or rancher, because they get elk incentive plan, they get damage compensation tags. So it's absolutely no different. And this industry in our great state has been severely handicapped, and we're losing our industry. I have been in business for 17 years. I've put my life and soul into this. I have hundreds of thousands of dollars and almost 2 decades invested in this. And I really don't want to lose it and see it going down the hill, down the drain. And as my esteemed colleague and good friend Mitch Vizzetti said, I don't want to be the generation that loses a mule deer in this state, and that's where we're heading. And I have a 10-year-old daughter, and so what is she supposed to do in her, for her generation and her kids and whatnot? So we have a problem that we need to solve, and we really need some help with this. Thank you, everybody, for your time.
Thank you for your comment. Next caller, please.
One moment, Chair, trying to queue up a caller. As a reminder, we are currently on support testimony on Senate Bill 78. If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in support, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 755. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allocating time for me to speak in favor of SB 78. I am Danny Riddle, R-I-D-D-L-E. I have been a Nevada resident since 1972. I asked to speak because my letter by itself is probably not enough. And in 2 minutes, I might not be able to finish reading my letter, so I would encourage you to read my letter. Letters tend to be grouped in 2 groups, those in favor and those who are opposed. And my letter has 3 points, which are each individually worthy of consideration. The letter is intended to present more than just another guide's opinion in favor of the guide bill. The letter is intended to present 3 reasons why the general public and Nevada residents should support SB 78. So, number 1, it is necessary to change how the wildlife commissioners are selected. Currently, recommendations seem to stem from Nevada Department of Wildlife career executives who favor wildlife board commissioners who respond more to employee career enhancements than to wildlife needs. A common problem with complex organizations with a public oversight board is that complex problems with far-reaching ramifications are often resolved by hurried laypeople based on information from professionals. The professionals know how to present information in a manner that is more beneficial to employees than for their stated purpose, and hurried laypeople tend to vote on the information that they receive from these professionals. This is not to infer that NDOW employees are overcompensated. The biologists, enforcement, and support staff I know are diligent, hardworking professionals who provide more value than their compensation. My complaint is that NDOW is getting bigger instead of better. And quickly, number two, economics and cash flow is the ultimate factor in determining the success of an organization, and it's for this reason that a master guide should be a wildlife commissioner. I am a licensed sub-guide. I'm not a master guide. Yet I favor master guide for the commission position instead of a sub-guide. The reason is not so much about wildlife knowledge as it is about business sense. Sub-guides also have extensive wildlife knowledge and experience. Master guides have to worry and sweat. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Thank you, Chair. As a reminder, we are currently on support testimony on Senate Bill 78. If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in support, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no more callers in support testimony at this time.
Great, thank you, BPS. Before we proceed to opposition, again, I just want to clarify that if I do end up cutting you off, or if you feel like you have anything else that you'd like to mention that was not mentioned within those 2 minutes time frames, I would strongly urge you to please communicate to my committee and send us written testimony so that we can go ahead and include that. So let's go ahead and proceed with the testimony in opposition.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in opposition on Senate Bill 78, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 768. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Yes, my name is Larry Johnson. I'm president of the Coalition for Nevada's Wildlife, and I want to thank the chair and members of the Senate Natural Resource Committee for this opportunity. We are in opposition to this bill. We feel the Wildlife Commission functions very well in its present form. We feel the County Advisory Board system also works very well, allowing public input on every issue being discussed by the Commission almost on a monthly basis. NDOW has the most democratic organization of any department in the state. On the matter of adding master guide to the Commission, I need to point out that there are a little over 100 master guides in the state, many of whom are non-residents compared to the 200,000 sportsmen in the state of Nevada. Guides simply do not deserve this degree of representation and would have to abstain from many important votes due to financial conflicts of interest. There is also presently a licensed sub-guide on the Commission. Guides, of course, are able to apply for the sportsman positions. We need our wildlife managed, and we need wildlife decisions be made on the basis of science, not on the basis of local political interests. One of the areas of complaints was the elimination of a saleable list of successful tag holders. Several NRS statutes prohibit the issuance of such a list due to privacy requirements by law. And so this is an invalid complaint. In fact, on all applications, there's a box to check on each application. It says, I want my name made public or I want my name kept private. In summary, we don't see the need for this bill, and we urge your opposition. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Caller with the last three digits, 092, excuse me, caller with the last three digits, 092. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
My name is Tiffany East, Tiffany, East, EAST. Good afternoon, Chair Donate and committee members. For the record, my name is Tiffany East, and I'm the chairwoman of the Nevada Board of Wildlife Commissioners. The Legislative Committee of the Wildlife Commission opposes SB 78. The full commission will vote on this and other bills at our March 19th meeting. Over the years, attempts to change the composition of the Wildlife Commission have failed. I'd like to think it's because we have a clear mission. The Nevada Wildlife Commission is a 9-member governor-appointed board. We are responsible for establishing broad policy, setting regulations, establishing hunting and fishing seasons and quotas, and receiving input on wildlife and boating matters. There is no oversight of NDOW regarding personnel issues or budgetary items. In fact, throughout the last 15 years, NDOW has been the subject to a series of 27 audits, ranging in type from law enforcement to fiscal and grant compliance. SB 78 attempts to add 2 positions to the commission, a master guide and an elected official. At any time, any of Nevada's more than 100 licensed master guides can apply for any of these seats. We believe that adding a master guide to the Wildlife Commission creates conflicts that will require considerable abstention from voting on regulations, season dates, and quotas. Non-resident guided hunts alone provide a substantial income, about a minimum of $1 million annually to the outfitters. Commissioners do not gain from this. 92% of our sportsmen opted out of the sellable list for privacy reasons. And during the 2019 legislative session, we agreed to the amendment for an advisory board, but the bill was killed before a vote. Currently, we have commission members representing 4 counties with fewer than 100,000 residents. So the change to afford 2 representatives from the same county of under 100,000 counters the argument for more rural representation. Finally, 14 of Nevada's 17 counties have active CABs. They often tell us how difficult it is for them to find members and engage the public to provide input to the commission. As I've stated on the record in the past, I'm open to working through many of the guides and outfitters' concerns. We respectfully urge you to oppose SB 78. Thank you.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 415. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hi, this is Jeff Dixon. That is Juliet Echo Foxtrot Foxtrot Delta Indigo X-Ray Oscar November. I'm the Nevada State Director for the Humane Society of the United States. Thank you, Chair Donate, Vice Chair Scheibel, and members of the Committee on Natural Resources. On behalf of our Nevada members and volunteers, the Humane Society of the United States opposes SB 78. We reject the idea that you need to have skin in the game by having bought a license or tag from the department or have paid a tax that goes into the Pittman-Robertson Fund in order to be among those who deserve to have a say in wildlife policy. As currently composed, the Nevada Board of Wildlife Commissioners is already heavily skewed towards serving the interests of the small share of Nevadans who hunt and fish and otherwise prefer lethal methods of wildlife management. The majority of the seats, 5 of 9, are designated for a member who is a hunter, angler, or both. The proposed expansion to include a licensed guide would maintain lethal recreation's majority. The Nevada State Report of the recent American Wildlife Values Survey found that a plurality of Nevadans, 44% of us, hold a mutualist orientation, meaning that we believe wildlife are part of our social network and that we should live in harmony. This is twice the share of traditionalists who believe wildlife should be used and managed for human benefit. The closest we get to representation on the commission is one member of the general public who shares strengths with this proposed expansion from 1 in 9 to 1 in 11, and correspondingly increases lethal recreation's ratio relative to the general public from 5 to 1 to 6 to 1. So clearly, SB 78 entrenches existing inequities. We instead recommend, although we are not currently proposing an amendment, but for future consideration, an alternative composition to the commission that proportionally represents Nevada's mutualist values and non-lethal recreation interests. The commission should include representation from ethicists, wildlife watchers, and other non-consumptive users, rather than more members from the already well-represented interests as proposed in this bill. Thank you for your time.
Caller 1, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin. Caller number 1, you will have 2 minutes and may begin now.
Hello, for the record, Fred Volz, V as in Victor, OLTZ. Proposed SB 78 further disenfranchises most Nevadans. It perpetuates overrepresentation of hunters and the rurals while excluding the majority interest in preserving our wildlife. Why are wildlife killers presumed to be wildlife experts? Why do rurals exclusively possess superior knowledge of wildlife's needs? Why should buying an NDOW killing license be a prerequisite to commission or CAB appointment? The current NRS guidelines for the State Commission and County Advisory Boards are mired in thinking from the year 1930, when the rurals were 70% of the state's human population. Today, 89% live in Clark, Washoe, and Carson City, yet their perspectives are inadequately represented and routinely ignored. NSHE's equally populated districts could be a model with gubernatorial appointment, but only if non-hunters retain a majority. The county advisory boards need similar reform in who qualifies for appointment and lack the requisite objectivity to nominate commissioners. The misnomer that NDOW's small number of licensees pay the bills is contradicted by most of NDOW's money coming from non-hunting federal taxpayers. The Federal Department of Interior's study proves wildlife watcher money substantially eclipses wildlife killer money. The pittance paid in NDOW license fees doesn't cover the loss of value to the public when its wildlife is permanently severed from the land, akin to gold mining. SB 78 deserves complete rejection. Thank you.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 026. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Dr. Baker, I implore the committee to please not pass SB 78. This bill caters to special interest groups. As previously mentioned, hunting guides are a minority. Ecotourism is on the rise. Hunting guides do not contribute much revenue to our state economy, lack formal education or training. In fact, due to their short-sightedness of taking and harvesting wildlife, we are seeing declining populations of wildlife, and we are seeing an imbalance between apex predators and non-predators. There are many problems facing our state and our country. We live in an era of unprecedented extinction.
problems like urban sprawl and climate. The hunting industry is dying. We are not in 1947. As previous comments, how will they feed their family? How about what legacy will they feed their family with in the next few decades when there aren't the populations of these animals to exterminate? NRS 501 expresses that the Nevada Wildlife Commission shall establish policies and adopt regulations necessary to the preservation, protection, management, and restoration of wildlife and its habitat. This board, the Wildlife Commission, is already predominantly pro-hunter male representative. Noticeably absent for a commission explicitly tasked with the preservation and protection of wildlife are wildlife and natural resource advocates. As such, SB 78 does nothing more than further stack an already stacked deck in favor of Nevada's historical pro-hunter representation. Our great state needs to have conservationists working in concert with hunters so that everybody can enjoy what resources we have left. Urban sprawl is a very big problem right now and will continue to do so. Our state is changing. The vast majority of Nevadans oppose hunting in any way, shape, or form. If SB 78 is allowed to pass, the hunters, which are a tiny minority. I'm sorry, did I exceed my 2 minutes?
Yeah, your
Probably.
2 minutes are. Go ahead and finish.
Thank you. Thank you very much for hearing me.
Thank you for your comment. Next caller, please.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 983. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hello, my name is Karen, Caron. Last name is Tayloe, Tayloe. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to discuss SB 78 and discuss the diversification of the Nevada Board of Wildlife Commissioners. The current and proposed makeup of the Nevada Board of Wildlife Commissioners does not reflect the demographics of all hundreds of thousands of people who engage in wildlife watching. Therefore, the current Nevada Board of Wildlife Commissioners' decisions and proposed decisions do not and will not reflect the values nor the contributions of those who fund and conserve wildlife in non-consumptive ways. SB 78 does very little to balance and diversify, and nor does it do anything for wildlife. I would like to address presented comments that wildlife watchers do not contribute financially and therefore should not have a say or should have very little say in wildlife. Thankfully, recent articles in the Las Vegas Review-Journal and Nevada Current show that wildlife watchers do contribute to the state's economy. Even the zinky Trump 2018 revision of the 2016 U.S. Fish and Wildlife revenue the survey, of wildlife recreation shows non-consumptive recreation revenue in this country at $75.9 billion. The funding of wildlife through Pittman Robertson and Dingle Johnson includes wildlife watchers who buy handguns, ammo, archery, boats, boat fuel. I think you get the picture that these federal excise tax transfers are not all hunter sourced. It is time to end the false narrative that wildlife watchers cannot have a voice in wildlife conservation due to money. We do contribute financially to our state's economy, and we do contribute financially to wildlife. And by statute, wildlife in the state belongs to all Nevadans. I cannot support SB 78 in its current form. Changes to the Nevada Board of Wildlife Commissioners needs to start with creating board positions and appointments based on current Nevada data and demographics. Thank you.
Caller with the last three digits, 180. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hi, this is Stephanie Myers, Stephanie, last name Myers, Myers, from Las Vegas. I have attended almost every Nevada Wildlife Commission meeting, either in person or by video conference, for the past 20 years. For that entire time, the composition of the commission has been lopsided, but SB 78 doesn't begin to address that imbalance on the board. I have listened to decision-making by the government board, which does not reflect the needs and values of the state, is not diversified, and does not include the non-hunting community, all 95% of the population of Nevada, except for one position, the public position, out of 9 seats. Wildlife watchers and other members of the general public who love our wildlife bring millions of dollars into the state, and we constitute more than 95% of the population. So why do we still have only a single seat at the table of the commission? The board is totally out of balance, but SB 78 does nothing to right this wrong. Thank you so much.
Caller with the last three digits, 792. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
This is Patrick Donnelly, PatrickDonnelly. I'm Nevada State Director with the Center for Biological Diversity. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We oppose SB 78 as it's currently written. First, we need to look at how things currently stand, and you've heard people go through this, so I won't reiterate, but the bottom line is the current Board of Wildlife Commissioners is totally out of sync with the population of Nevada. There's more hunters, more farmers, more rural people than the overall population of the state, and so it doesn't really represent Nevadans and our views on wildlife. This bill would not fix the problems with the commission. In fact, it would exacerbate the problems with the composition of the commission by further entrenching power with the hunters and in the rural parts of the state. If we're going to be changing the commission of the composition of the Wildlife Commission, we should look at a bunch of different areas, including ecotourism, because a lot of us enjoy Nevada's wildlife without killing it. We should consider adding a slot for Nevada's indigenous communities who are currently unrepresented on the commission. We should also consider scientists. Why do we not currently have a slot for biologists? Ultimately, why should we have a commission composed of a majority hunters making decisions about wildlife in a state which is overwhelmingly full of people who don't hunt? We need to dramatically overhaul the composition of the Nevada Board of Wildlife Commissioners. We don't need to further enhance the power of entrenched interests which already control it, which this bill does. So please reject this bill. Thank you for your time.
Caller with the last three digits, 211. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Jackie Chandler, JACQUIE, I'm the Executive Director of Sustainable Tahoe. Our mission is to accelerate the adoption of geotourism in the Tahoe watershed, and we vehemently oppose SB 78 the way it is written, because as all the previous last 6 callers have said, it does nothing to diversify the board. It only amplifies the one voice, which is less than 5% of Nevadans. I remember when the bear hunt was moving forward and they did a vote and the public was 95% against the bear hunt and 100% of the bears were against the bear hunt. But they went and they put it in anyway. And when they were interviewed on the radio, they said, why didn't you listen to the will of the people? And they said, we just wanted it. We wanted to hunt. We put it through. They didn't care. There was no representation of the voice at large, which was 95%. If there is anything to be done, it would be to reorder the board to truly reflect the views of Nevadans that want to load cameras, not guns. People want to take pictures, not lives. There are not unlimited resources to continue to hunt. everybody has a hunting license, there'll be nothing left. We're already on the edge of extinctions. And if we don't give habitat back to the wildlife, we're going to be in that lineup of extinctions. Please oppose SB 78, and please look at reordering the Nevada Department of Wildlife Board to truly represent the humane, wildlife-loving views of Nevada and most of the world. Thank you.
As a reminder, we are currently on opposition testimony to Senate Bill 78. If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in opposition, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 732. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hello, my name is Kyle Davis. That's Kyledavis. And I appear today on behalf of the Coalition for Nevada's Wildlife. We are opposed to SB 78. As you've heard in previous testimony, the Wildlife Commission process is not broken. The board hears input from county advisory boards from every county in the state. These boards are appointed by county commissioners. In addition, every member of the public has the opportunity to provide comment at the meetings of the commission. Finally, the commission itself has representation from throughout the state from those that have experience with and responsibility to wildlife. The complaints that you have heard today in both the support and opposition testimony are trying to change the board simply because they disagree with some of the decisions. To be clear, sportsmen and women also have complaints about some of the decisions that the commission has made over the years. But we understand that this is a part of the public process. The Coalition for Nevada's Wildlife supports the scientific management of wildlife. This management has brought our game populations back from the brink of extinction in our state. And we believe that the existing commission process does an excellent job of doing that, of managing our wildlife according to the science so that we can continue to have healthy wildlife populations. Many of the finest conservationists in the state have served on and do serve on the commission. This is not a broken process. This is a commission that takes their job seriously. I would argue more seriously than many other boards and commissions in the state, and feels a strong responsibility to healthy wildlife populations in our state. We urge this committee to reject SB 78. Thank you.
As a reminder, we are currently in opposition testimony on Senate Bill 78. If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in opposition, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no more callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you, VPS. Finally, do we have anyone willing to testify in neutral on this bill?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in neutral on Senate Bill 78, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in neutral at this time.
Thank you so much, BPS. Senator Goycochea, do you have any last-minute comments that you'd like to entertain?
Thank you, Mr. Chair Donati. Yes, just a couple of quick ones. I would ask the committee to at least look and consider the language in there that allows us to go back to the process where the CABs do, in fact, nominate those members of the Wildlife Commission. Clearly, that is a accountable process. We heard some dialogue about people wanting more representation. Those come through the ballot box, through your local county commissioner, and they're who appoint the CABs, and therefore you can make a difference in the whole process if, in fact, the appointment is contingent on CAB nominations. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Goycochea, for that clarification. Before I go ahead and close this, I just want to mention Again, thank you to everyone that participated in the testimony for today regarding SB 78. Regarding the opinion poll, as of 3:15 p.m. today, we had 44 submitted for the bill and 64 against. And in terms of letters that we received 3 in support and 16 in opposition. So just want to put that out on the record. But with that, let's go ahead and close the hearing on SB 78. And we can go ahead and proceed to our next bill, Senate Bill 114. At this point, I will go ahead and open the hearing on SB 114. This measure authorizes food that contains hemp to be produced or sold at a food establishment under certain circumstances. Will the bill presenter, Senator Goycochea, please proceed when you are ready, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And if you thought I was over my skis on the last bill, wait for this one. Again, Senator Pete Goycochea bringing Senate Bill number 114. Again, we do have a significant amendment to the bill. And really the long and short of it, and I'll be very brief because there are some people here that can in fact testify to the bill with far more expertise than I do. But the long and the short of this bill was patterned after a bill that came out of Virginia and did pass the Virginia legislature. And really what it's about is to make it legal at the point the FDA or the USDA does pass federal regulations pertaining to the use of hemp in food products and or, well, in any product, industrial product. What we're attempting to do is to poise Nevada in a position where we can, in fact, provide a market for a growing hemp industry in the state. It's a huge industry. We've got significant acreage, and I know you'll hear from some of the people that are actively engaged in the hemp production in this state, and clearly are looking for the clarification and the ability to, in fact, use those products. Now, it's kind of confusing, and as we brought the amendment forward, we have clarified that it is not necessarily a food establishment because we're trying to avoid a huge fiscal note, but it is really to make it available, use hemp or a commodity or a product made from hemp that would allow for that to be actually used in the state of Nevada. Unfortunately, today you can go to stores in the state of Nevada and buy hemp products, CDBG oil, that has been produced out of state, and yet it's on the shelves right here in the state of Nevada. And yet, without this change in the law, Nevada does prohibit the use of hemp in production here. And so clearly, that's what we're attempting to bring forward with SB 114. And if you'd like, I can walk you through the amendments, but I think, again, some of the presenters that are actually in hemp production can do a far better job. So with that, I'll just stand for questions unless you have questions pertaining to the amendment to the bill.
Thank you, Senator Goycochea. Do any of my committee members have questions specifically to him before we move on to the other presenters? Okay, I don't see any at this point. So, Senator Goycochea, I'm going to go ahead and move on with your other two presenters. So I believe we have Ms. Donna Bath and Mr. John Calso. So, Donna, if you're on the line, you can go ahead and proceed.
I am. Can you hear me?
You are good.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Donna Bath, D-O-N-N-A, B as in boy, A-T-H. I'm the Director of Community Relations and Special Projects for Silverland Farms. We're a 3,000-acre organic hemp farm that's located approximately 60 miles north of Ely, Nevada. I'm offering comments today in support of SB 114. We sincerely appreciate the bill's sponsors, Senator Pete Goycochea, Senator Meyer, and Senator Hansen, and the staff's hard work and attention in this proposed legislation. As Senator Goycochea mentioned, the intent of this bill is to authorize food that contains hemp at the federal legal limit to be produced or sold at food establishments under certain conditions in Nevada. Trackers of the U.S. hemp industry estimate that the market for the CBD products will grow from $390 million in 2018 to approximately $1.3 billion by 2022. Given the intense consumer demand and the commercial interest in hemp-infused products, I would submit that Nevada is currently missing a large manufacturing economic opportunity that would greatly benefit our state's current economic situation. There are approximately 16 states that have already passed legislation similar to SB 114 and are enjoying the economic benefit of companies that were interested in adding legal limit CBD to their established food products and are now manufacturing and selling safe CBD-infused products in their states. Existing law prohibits a person from selling a commodity or product containing hemp that is intended for human consumption unless it has been tested and labeled in accordance with the requirements established by the Department of Health and Human Services. Section 2 of SB 114 would require the department to adopt regulations that identify contaminants of commodities or food products that contain hemp and prescribe tolerances for such contaminants. Currently in Nevada, many food items that claim to contain CBD are being purchased online and from many retail establishments. These items are being manufactured outside of the state of Nevada and seem to be operating in a legal gray area. A 2017 University of Pennsylvania study found that nearly 70% of the CBD products sold online either contained more or less of the compound than their label stated. The proposed regulations in SB 114 would certainly go a long way in ensuring consumer and product safety in Nevada. On February 4th, a bipartisan group of federal lawmakers reintroduced the Hemp and Hemp-Derived CBD Consumer Protection and Market Stabilization Act. This is the third piece of cannabis legislation to be filed so far in the 117th session of Congress. The act is identical to a bill that died in Congress last year, and it is meant to make hemp, cannabinoid derived from hemp, or any other ingredient derived from hemp lawful for human consumption use under the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act as a dietary ingredient in a dietary supplement and for other purposes. We are very encouraged by the fact that this federal legislation was reintroduced so early in the new Congress and feel very strongly that the passage of SB 114 will certainly position Nevada early to reap the economic benefits of the expanding market for hemp-infused food products and industry once it's passed federally. We at Silver Lion Farms are very aware of the economic hardship we are all currently facing and are very mindful of the state budget and unfortunate necessary cutbacks. We feel that any possible fiscal impact to state budget by passage of SB 114 regulations would more than made up by the economic benefit the expanding hemp industry would bring to Nevada. Manufacturers that are very interested in enhancing their products with CBD in order to meet the growing hemp-infused product demand are going to locate in the states that allow them to do so legally. Unfortunately, Nevada is currently missing this opportunity. I would encourage you to support and pass SB 114. I sincerely thank you for your time, and I'm certainly happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Bath. Mr. Khalsa, if you are available, go right ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Gian Khalsa, Giankalsa, and I'm the president and owner of Silver Lion Farms located near Ely, Nevada. I'm offering comments today in support of SB 114. I sincerely appreciate the bill's sponsors and staff's hard work and attention on this proposed legislation. I know it's a new industry and it's hard to understand the rails and the direction that it's all going in. Silverland Farms is an organic hemp farm and ingredient supply company. We have invested nearly $100 million in Nevada's hemp agriculture and have created thousands of jobs over the last 3 years up here in Ely. Hemp is a new economy that is legal in all 50 states, and Nevada is sitting in a very strong position to take advantage of all the good paying agricultural jobs, extraction jobs, construction jobs, manufacturing jobs especially, which this bill specifically addresses, and all the downline industries that Nevada hemp resources can generate. The intent of this bill is to authorize products that contain hemp and hemp extracts to be manufactured and sold at food and other establishments under certain conditions in Nevada. This is truly a jobs bill for the state. It's an economic bill for the state. It allows for manufacturers and food establishments to produce and sell food and beverage products made with CBD and hemp extracts. This has been now legalized in 16 different states and is poised to be federally legalized this year. And I feel like Nevada is missing a very large opportunity here. Food and beverage is a very large market for Nevada grown hemp, agriculture, and new manufacturing businesses in the state. It has the ability to bring many new downline hemp and CBD consumer products and manufacturing jobs to the state. It only makes sense to take advantage of hemp agriculture in the state by making new products from it right here in the state. Currently, Nevada sells products made from CBD, but we can't manufacture them in the state, which kind of doesn't make sense. We should be taking advantage of our own natural resources, manufacturing those products here in the state, and then selling them here in the state to create much greater revenue overall for the state. The passage of SB 114 in Nevada will help position Nevada to take full advantage of the economic benefits of the expanding market for hemp-infused products and all the downline industries created from what we're growing out here on these 3,000 acres. The largest consumer manufacturing companies in the country are very interested in enhancing their products with CBD and manufacturing them in states that will allow them to do so. You'll soon see just about every food, snack, beverage, pet product, beauty product, supplement product, medicines, analgesic topical products for pain and inflammation that all contain CBD and other hemp extracts as this industry continues to expand. My question is, why not create these hemp products here in the state of Nevada with all of the hemp resources that we're developing now? I think we should do everything we can to attract as many hemp jobs to our state as possible. It's a whole new industry and a whole new source of revenue. Manufacturers are going to locate in states that support their companies. I'm very grateful for the hemp policies of the state of Nevada and for the support that I've gotten from my local officials, my state officials, Congress, Senate, all the way up and down the board. SB 114 is a positive step for Nevada to not miss this amazing opportunity to expand a very high dollar industry in our state. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for the presentation. Do we have any questions for my committee members? I don't see any questions. Oh, Senator Brooks, go for it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question either for the senator or for Mr. Kalsa. In section 2, it talks about identifying the contaminants and then correctly labeling it. And it appears as if that generated a fiscal note. In the products that you currently are manufacturing or Is there a labeling process that's required as well? I guess it would be from the Department of Agriculture, or in this case, no, it's DHHS. Is there, in your products you manufacture, do you currently have to have some sort of labeling associated with it?
Senator, I can answer that if you wish.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, no, actually, it's supposed to be, but DHS currently hasn't issued what those requirements are. So even though it's in the bills, it hasn't yet materialized into actually what is required on the labeling. But CBD actually, or hemp, is truly it's just another ingredient. It would be like adding echinacea or ginseng or something of the sort to caffeine, even to a product. So the labeling, there is no labeling requirements per se. The only requirements currently are that we have to have a third-party testing from a third-party tested lab that shows that there are no pesticides, there are no, just like in any agricultural product, that there's no pesticides, there's no heavy metals, and there's no contaminants of any kind in the product. And so all hemp manufacturers who create the ingredient of CBD and sell it to a food manufacturer supplies that food manufacturer with that certificate of analysis that shows that the product has passed and that there is no problem with the product, kind of like almost any other agricultural.
Mr. Chair, if I may, this is Senator Goycochea, and again, I have had some conversations with our state health department, and they are the ones that would be generating the fiscal note on this, Senator Brooks, because they are concerned until, as John said, at the point the feds do, in fact, on the federal level, incorporate those contaminant or those guidelines, the state is concerned they'll be in the middle. So technically what we're seeking to do with the bill is to poise it, have it in place. When the federal requirements are in fact passed, then the state would have the capability fairly easily to pick that up through our own Health and Human Services. But without having the federal bill in place, then they are concerned it would be a huge lift for them to have to go in and test and license.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you, Mr. Seth. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that. Thank you, Chair, for the question.
Thank you, Senator Brooks. Any other questions at this time? Seeing none, the only thing that I wanted to mention is I think we do have representatives from HHS on the phone line, so we'll hear from them when we open testimony. The one thing that I want to say is I think there's definitely a need for stringent requirements on labeling purposes, just because of the conversation that could arise from a public health standpoint about access. So making sure that all of that is aligned in the future would be important. And I'm interested in hearing from their perspective once we open testimony. And I hope that HHS covers this should this bill move forward. Let's go ahead, seeing that there are no other questions at this time, let's go ahead and move to testimony. So as a reminder, we will be limiting all testifiers to 2 minutes each. Testifiers are encouraged to summarize their positions and submit more comprehensive testimony in writing. BPS, is there anyone on the line wishing to provide support testimony for SB 114?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in support on Senate Bill 114, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 458. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Adrienne Snow. That's R-I-E-N-N-E, last name Snow, S-N-O-W. I'm one of the founders of Western States Hemp, which is one of Nevada's longest standing and most diversified growing operations for hemp. I'm offering comments today in support of SB 114. Having been in the hemp industry through the many highs and lows since the inception of the 2016 hemp program, we've seen a number of issues that have taken Nevada from being an industry leader to being put in a non-competitive position as it pertains to manufacturing CBD and hemp-derived products. In 2019, the market was flooded nationwide with a supply of hemp biomass due to the number of hemp growers that tried their hand at farming the new crop post-2018 Farm Bill. This oversupply resulted in a massive price drop for the fledgling commodity, and companies like mine that had the means and willingness to produce a number of retail products for which there was high demand were not allowed to do so. The moratorium that exists throughout Nevada to manufacture CBD and hemp-derived goods consumed orally inhibited us from doing so within the Silver State. Throughout Nevada, you will find an array of edibles containing CBD, which are legally sold here. As a business owner who has paid a massive price to pave the way for the industry, it's extremely disheartening to see retail goods made outside of our state given precedence over the businesses trying to maintain and pay taxes here in the state. Just this morning, I received a call outlining an example of how our current laws inhibit business and monetarily punish Nevada farmers and businesses. A pharmaceutical scientist specializing in liquid technology for the delivery of cannabinoids approached our company about setting up operations here in Fallon about 2 years ago, with a plan of deriving those cannabinoids directly from our farm exclusively. Because of the manufacturing moratorium of CBD containing foods and drinks, this company was forced to find an operating location outside of Nevada. Last month, in a joint venture product, this team launched a line of canned drinks with a gross sales of $3 million in just 2 weeks. This company still wants to set up an operation in the Silver State, but can only do so if SB 114 is supported. Therefore, I ask you to consider supporting the bill to give farmers and businesses the opportunity to create wealth and wellness through our state farming products.
Thank you for your comment. Next caller, please.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 323. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Board. My name is Steve Walker. I am representing Eureka County. Steve, S-T-E-V-E, Walker, W-A-L-K-E-R. We're supporting the amended version of the bill. We feel that it would provide opportunities for increased cropping choices in the agricultural economy within the county. Thank you.
As a reminder, we are currently in support testimony on Senate Bill 114. Please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no more callers in support at this time.
Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and move on to opposition at this time.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in opposition on Senate Bill 114, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 672. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good evening, Chair Donante and committee. For the record, my name is Joelle Gutman Dodson with the Washoe County Health District. That's JoelleLegutmanDodson. I'm here tonight on behalf of our Environmental Health Services. Our food protection program strives to maintain the highest level of food safety in Washoe County for locals and visitors alike. Staff conduct annual inspections of food establishments, including restaurants, food manufacturers, temporary food establishments, and mobile food operations to determine compliance with current food safety and regulation practices. Our food regulations mirror the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, food code and are founded on scientifically sound, technical, and legal basis for regulating the retail and food industry. Washoe County Health District has been in communication with the bill sponsor, and it is our understanding that the bill is intended to allow hemp products, including CBD, as a food additive if and when the FDA approves them on a national level. For the record, Washoe County is in support of this intention. However, as the bill is currently written, and with the proposed amendment, WCHD would be asked to permit an additive that is currently not on an approved additive list to food manufactured and served in our jurisdiction. There is limited independent research on the health and safety of this product as a food additive, including the appropriate quantities allowed per serving. As currently written, and with the proposed amendment, Washoe County Health District would require additional research, training, and staff to meet the requirements of this bill. It would also require the updating of existing food regulations, which is a public process. Our estimated costs would be around $155,000 annually if this bill moves forward. And we didn't submit a fiscal note because we were waiting for the intent of this hearing. But I just wanted to put that on the record that we have been in conversation with the bill sponsor and we appreciate his intent and appreciate him working with us. Thank you for your time. And on behalf of the Washoe County Health District, we encourage you to amend the bill to allow hemp as an approved food additive in Nevada once the FDA has approved it at the national level. Thank you.
As a reminder, we are currently in opposition testimony on Senate Bill 114. If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in opposition, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no more callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you, VPS. At this time, is there anyone else left for neutral?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in neutral on Senate Bill 114, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 101. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon. This is Margot Chappell, MargotChappel. I'm a Deputy Administrator with the Division of Public and Behavioral Health, and we did attach the fiscal note. I'd be happy to ask questions. It's primarily to implement the bill as written because we don't currently have a program like this. So I'm happy to answer any questions should the committee desire. Thank you.
As a reminder, we are currently on neutral testimony on Senate Bill 114. If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in neutral, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no more callers in neutral at this time.
Thank you so much. Senator Goycochea, do you have any last-minute remarks that you'd like to mention?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I was hoping maybe I could get Mrs. Bath or Guion to respond back to the question, pretty much a question from Washoe County Health District, and that is, maybe I misspoke, but I felt we could make this bill passage contingent on the federal change in the federal regulations, if that would be in fact acceptable for them. Just trying to avoid the fiscal note.
Okay, Pete, this is Donna. I can try and answer that. As we stated, we have been in contact with our federal delegation, and we are very encouraged, if you will, by the movement on the federal legislation side on this bill. We've heard rumors, and they're only rumors, that hopefully this bill will go pretty rapidly, and hopefully by second quarter of this year, we should know and have some movement. There are 16 other states, as I said, that are currently doing this with the legal limits of the hemp. And the labeling requirements, as Guion said, are already being done, and our organic and any of the industry that we are producing for, especially in the organic, we have a very strict labeling policy and everything that we have to follow already in existence. So, if we have to wait for the federal regs, I'm hopeful that will be very, very soon. There are other states that are completely doing it right now. And as Guion said, there are businesses that are positioning themselves for when this federal legislation passes, they're ready to jump. They're ready to go. And we certainly want to take that opportunity. As Adrian Snow testified to you, they are manufacturers. We are not manufacturers at Silver Lion Farm. We are a product provider, but they are manufacturers, and it does seem very unfair that you can go to downtown Ely. Here's a picture of one that is purchased off the shelf, yet Ms. Snow and her partner are unable to attract industry to come to their town. So I guess my question would be is how do we get around making this a fair playing field, if you will, for the Nevada businesses? If the companies such as Oregon are able to bring their product to a state and sell it, then we must be pretty comfortable with what's being consumed by our consumers. On the other hand, I would much rather see that Nevada take control of this, and anybody that wants to sell hemp-infused products in the state of Nevada would have to go through the same regulations as any other manufacturer in the state of Nevada would have to do. And that would place our Nevada businesses on a more level playing field. So right now, I feel that we are consuming the hemp, we're buying the hemp, but unfortunately, our manufacturers in Nevada are being stunted in their growth by not being able to take the same opportunity that the manufacturers in, say, Oregon, Virginia, Texas, they're importing all this stuff into Nevada, and I feel like we're really missing that opportunity and really putting the hit on our manufacturing opportunities in Nevada. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. And Chairman Donati, if with your indulgence, I'll continue to work on the bill, see if we can find the middle ground, see if there is some way we can get this movement forward, and talking with Ms. Chappelle to see if there is somewhere before we actually hit a deadline. With your indulgence, I'll continue to work on it. But, with that, that's about all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Goycochea, for that clarification. I think we can go ahead and, for now, I think we're good, and we can go ahead and close the hearing on SB 114. And I just remind the public that the committee will not be taking any action on SB 78 or SB 114 today, but they may be brought back for a future work session. With that, let's go ahead and finish off with public comments. So I'm going to go ahead and call for public comment. Please remember to limit your comments to 2 minutes each. VPS staff, is there anyone wishing to provide public comment?
Thank you, Chair. We are currently on public comment. If you have recently joined the call and would like to provide public comment, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, the public line is open and working, and there are no callers for public comment at this time.
Great, thank you, BPS. Let's go ahead and close public comment. Members, are there any last-minute questions or remarks? Seeing none, again, thank you so much for your cooperation, and to all the presenters and anyone that participated in today's meeting. Our next meeting is Thursday, March 11th at 3:30 p.m. And with that, this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.